sókè pamọ́. Mountain back to Atlantic Ocean. Obomi Hills to Pocondre. To educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah. Focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Foreign affairs. Reliable information. History. Ooh. Talking about culture. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Business. Sports. Advertisement. Articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Between the Headlines on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition, we're going to be looking at some financial issues that border on finance, economics, and everything in between. Because there has been a lot of confusion about what's going on. One of those is the new petroleum pricing structure. What this means for those who are in that business sector, what it means, and what is the LPRC trying to accomplish here. We'll also look at the GAC audit report. The GAC audit report out, it said something about the finance ministry. The finance minister came up, and said a few things. We'll look at his response and what it means, right? We're going to explain that a lot of time these things, they go into politics. And so a lot of people don't have clear understanding of what is happening. Here at Focus on Liberia, we are committed to educating, to elevating the discourse. And we're going to do just that tonight. Also, the government intervened in the prices, right? And so that is having an impact. Let's look at, and some are looking at it as the Liberian dollar has appreciated. Is it really? We're going to look at all that right here on Focus on Liberia. Invite a friend and keep tuned. Doing this with me tonight is Attorney Konyene Fremont. He's an attorney, he's an economist, and also a financial crime specialist. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, John. It's nice to be here.
And let me also mention, he's the progenitor of the NTR project. His project here is both the CDC and the Unity Party government has not served us well, so we should do away with them and look another way. Tonight, we are not talking about NTR, we are talking the economy here. I don't know, you are in the area, so you understand these things. But do you agree that there has been a lot of confusion as what the audit report is saying, what the price, the government intervention to control prices, or how this pertains to either jolting the economy, or do you understand that there's a lot of confusion that people don't really understand? They just talk these things like street talk.
Yeah. Whatever economic policy you choose, you can work with it. But the worst thing for economic planning is confusion, is instability. So if there is confusion, it creates a lot of problem. It undermines your policy moves, it undermines investor confidence. It undermines consumer confidence. So it is not good to lose control of the narrative, especially when it's dealing with economic situation. You have to be seen as being in control. You have to be seen as knowing what's obtaining and that you're working on it. You have a plan and you're working with your plan. That is better for the economic planning, but not the other way around.
Good. So tonight, let's start with the new petroleum pricing structure. And this is not in a vacuum. Quite recently, the government came up, they had a committee to study prices. They said, well, prices are going up even though they're supposed to come down. So let's do something, let's intervene. And what the government did was to say, hey, the price for this one is this, the price of egg, because they call Vice President Jeremiah Khan was in charge of that. And at the end of the prices were negotiated. Also, what happened before was the LPRC saying, hey, we're going to be importing petroleum products now. Quite recently, the LPRC came up with a new price structure, and I want to put it on the screen so we'll talk about it, and then you can give us the whole detail about this new price structure. The Liberian Petroleum Refining Company. So there's a report that said, Directive on the implementation of new petroleum pricing structure and revenue collection guidelines. This letter serves as an official notification from the Liberian Petroleum Refining Company regarding a new directive from the President of the Republic of Liberia. In a mandate dated September 3, 2025, the President has instituted a revised pricing structure for petroleum products in Liberia. This decision is driven by the government's commitment to maintaining low fuel prices for consumers while simultaneously securing necessary funding for critical national infrastructure, particularly road fund. New pricing and fee structure. As per the presidential mandate, the following adjustments have been made to the pricing structure formula, effective immediately. These fees will be remitted to each gallon of petroleum product lifted as indicated below. Storage fees or terminal 5 cents, road funds 30 cents, support, and on and on and on. It went on. Kanye, before we start, I want you to give us a little background. How was this done before, and what is being introduced now?
Well, historically, I've seen the LPRC work in coordination with the Commerce Ministry to regulate the price of petroleum and other related commodities. So I guess they have their storage farms, so storage charges and all of that will be something that is within their control. But the price of petroleum on the market, I've seen that done in coordination with LPRC. Now, what I haven't seen is for example, if the LPRC were created by an act, what is their authority to unilaterally do this? Also, they are claiming to be doing it under a presidential decree, right?
Right.
Let me tell you one thing: when you're writing a public policy like that, you have to start with your legal basis. If you are claiming authority from the Constitution, you got to cite the constitutional clause that gave you that authority. If you are claiming authority under a statute, you have to cite the statutory clause that gave you that authority. If you are claiming that authority under a regulation, you have to cite that. What I see them writing there is just saying by virtue of the presidential proclamation, is it? I mean, you got a document with you, right?
Oh, I think maybe it came from me, but I lost you a little bit. Can you repeat that?
What I'm saying, when you issue a public regulatory policy of that nature, you must start with where comes your legal authority.
Authority to do that.
It will come actually from a constitutional clause. You have to cite it. You have to put it in that document. Or maybe it comes from a statutory clause. You have to put it in the document. Or it comes from a regulation. But to issue a regulation of that nature and just say the president say, that is the worst form of governance I can think about. That is government by decree. It's close to dictatorship. So for me, it smacks with illegality and unlawfulness. But I guess probably this matter is going to get to the courts, and the legal authority of them to issue such a regulation will be questioned. But I can tell you up front, they must cite the legal authority they have to do that.
Yeah. No, that's very important. But those fees, right? Those fees they are talking. What are fees? Are they like in the form of taxes, or what is because legislative branch will be doing those kind of things. So how is that different from the right that the legislature have to levy taxes
Yeah,
and do all these things?
it doesn't matter what you call it, right? If it operates as a tax, the court will interpret it to be a tax. So you can call it fees, you can call it commission, you can call it anything you want to call it. But if that matter gets to court and the effect of it has the effect of taxes, then the court is going to interpret it as a tax. And so I question the ability to regulate the price of fuel in that regard, because I think they don't have the necessary statutory authority to do that. But I guess they're calling it fees because in their thinking, well, if they have their storage terminals, they get a right to charge fees. Okay, but we get a right to know if the fee starts to operate like a tax, then of course you don't have the constitutional nor statutory authority to levy that. So that could be a problem, but I suspect this matter is going to go to court, because those who are in the business are not going to allow their profit margins to be eroded, and it runs the risk of driving them out of business. And I don't see the point. I mean, if this government comes to power and you take a market that is stable and is supplying the product and services, and you want to re-engineer it in a way that will create instability, I really don't see the point.
So first of all, LPRC was not importing petroleum products before. Now it is doing that. What is the impact of that?
Honestly, when it comes to the economy, the more participants, the better. The more participants, the better, because obviously there is a tendency for price to drop if the suppliers are more. So I really don't see how they can be regulator and be a participant in the market at the same time. That will go against the fundamental principle of law. So I don't see them surviving that. They will either be regulator or they will be participant, but they can't be participant and be regulator at the same time.
And even when it comes to the idea of controlling prices now, so you're doing many things. So I can bring in the gas, I can set the price, I can distribute it, I can regulate it at the same time. How does this work?
Well, it's unlawful, it's unconstitutional, because the Constitution, the fundamental principle of the Constitution is that there has to be separation of power. There got to be check and balances. And the people who implementing and enforce cannot create laws. And the people who interpreting cannot create laws. So that separation is fundamental, and it doesn't matter what kind of institution you run. You in the army, the same principles apply. The same constitutional principle that there must be separation of powers, there must be check and balances, people must be given the due process rights, those kinds of things. So it doesn't matter if you do LPRC, you cannot be a participant in the market. You import, you store, you distribute, you price, you regulate. No. So that thing, so if it gets to court, I don't see them surviving it.
And now they changed the fees, they brought them down. Let's say storage fees, for instance. Let me see what it was and what it is now. Storage fees, all terminal is 5 cents. What is this? First of all, how do you explain this? Okay, it's a storage fee, all terminals, 5 cents. What is that 5 cents? 5 cents per gallon.
Yeah, I think those are the per gallon rates.
Right. So and according to Musa Bility, it used to be 35 cents. So now if you bring it down to 5 cents, Musa Bility company Simrex and other storage facilities that were making money out of this, they're not going to make money.
Yeah,
So so this is the argument that hey, this is intended to force us out of business. Are they making sense?
well, I wouldn't want to comment on the political side of things, but if you're taking it from a perspective, from a logical perspective, or logical commercial or economic perspective, the government is better off creating the environment and allowing multiple actors to participate in a particular sector. Meaning, they should be encouraging more and more people to come in the sector and participate, because that's how you get one, good services, that's how you get better products, that's how you get lower prices, and that's how you get consistency and stability of supplies. What the government is doing is trying to get people out of the sector, either so LPRC can take over the scepter and probably give it to the political people or people who they prefer, stuff like that. But it's very bad for the economy, because what happened, mind you, this is a president who have been taking 40-man delegation, 50-man delegation, going to places and say he's looking for investors. This is the worst possible news to come out of Liberia when you are looking for investors. That the government can wake up one morning, some agency can issue a new decree, and business that you've been doing for the past 20 years, all of a sudden have to decide new rules. They have been doing it with rice. They've been trying to detect the rice price. They say they're detecting the flour price. Now they're detecting the egg price. Where will they stop? They go on to petroleum. Who knows? Maybe you'll be capable and pencils tomorrow. Okay? Or it could be medical supplies. So we have a problem. Liberian people miss this unity party government. They are scaring away investors. It may be that, oh, you do it to Ability, right? Hassan ability. That's the name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, ability. You do need ability. But if somebody is sitting in France and wants to come and invest in the energy sector in Liberia, it is sufficient for him to read that one of the major players or some of the major players have been squeezed out of the sector. That is enough for him to not to want to come to Liberia. Coupled with news about the government detecting prices here and there, that's enough. So Braga is doing the worst possible thing to attract foreign investment, and that is trying to detect policy overnight, changing long-standing policy overnight, and just being unreliable with respect to. Remember when we started the show, I said the worst thing you can do for the economy is to create confusion, is to create instability and change the rules every now and then. That's the worst you can do, and that's what he's doing.
Wow. Let's go to our next topic here, which is the GAC audit report. There's a lot to chew on here, and I must admit, I just read summary of the report. I didn't read all of it, and based on the summary I read, the GAC is saying a whole lot of things. And let's talk about the part that had to do with first starting with what the 2.8 million that everybody's talking about, right? So give me a briefing on that. Let me see if I put a few slides here. Oops. So to the best of your ability, how do you summarize the audit report that had to do with the finance ministry?
Okay. First thing we need to clarify, what kind of report is it?
Yeah.
So it is the consolidated fund. Meaning, when you put all the government activities into one basket and you take the total, that's it. Funds coming in, funds going out. Okay.
And it's from that consolidated fund that they pay people. They pay the
It's the consolidated fund from there that why everything happens. Yeah. So it's an aggregate of everything under the government spending power. That's what the report. That's what they are. So they're not doing finance ministry or annual report. That's a different report. It's not an annual report or finance ministry. This report is the consolidated fund. All money coming into the government from all angles and how they spend it. That's it. So that money can be revenue. It can be loans. It can be grants. That's the money coming in. And then the money going out can be expenditure to ministry for maybe salaries, for equipment, to service loans, to get grant to other institutions. That's how it works. So the 2.8 million in question that they talk about, I think they say that amount was unaccounted for. Yeah, but it raised a whole bunch of other issues that I feel for far more important than the 2.8 million.
Yeah, let's start with that 2.8 million, and I want to go in the other issue.
Okay, so what is about the 2.8 million?
Right. So when they say the 2.8 million is unaccounted for, because when I read the report, the explanation I got, and tell me if I'm right, is that hey, you're supposed to pay people, and the people you are paying, you paying some of the money you are paying them is not anywhere. You put that amount on a different category, right? Because
no, I think they couldn't find the papers substantiating the expenditure. That's why the minister said it was documentation issue.
And what happened was, and let me put that on the screen, right? Because there is a consolidated amount, consolidated report money, and then they entered their own money. The two couldn't agree.
That's different.
So what is this 2.8 million? Huh?
Listen, there raised several issues. Let's take it step by step.
Yeah.
There's 2.8 million. They can't find a document for it. So we call that expenditure without source documents.
Right.
Okay. So these guys are saying it's a document issue. But the problem with not finding the document is we don't know what the real issue is. Right? You claim it is a document issue. But maybe if we were to investigate it further, it could be more than document issue because it's only about looking at the document we can know what happened. So
and he called it archive.
Archive. That's the thing they're saying. It's a document issue, but 2.8 million is a lot of money to get not explained by way of document. Okay. So I think there's a problem, and Mr. Gaffar, he's a good accountant, and he's have long experience in government. So that's a poor excuse. And part of the reason why he was brought back is because Liberian said, oh, he had significant experience. Now he is saying, and I listened to his auditor general or his accountant general is saying that, oh, well, when they did a CDC report, where they couldn't account for, I think, 100 and some more million, so the fact that we can account for 2.5 million, we are better off. Well, how about not expending money without documentation, proper documentation? Won't that be better? Okay. And secondly, you say, okay, it's an average report. Okay, but you didn't get an unqualified report because in accounting, when they say the unqualified report, it means you clear. You're good to go. Mm-hmm. When they say you have a qualified report, it means you have things to explain. And when they say average, it means things are too bad off. Right. It's just so bad off, it's a mess. So it's not like you pass totally to say you clear. Qualified means that when you got things to explain, there are things that you have not explained yet. So you can be pushing that, but because in Liberia, we are so used to mediocrity. So if we don't get an unqualified report, what we say in Liberia, it's not bad. Well, you get electricity, no, it's not bad. I need to put solar panel up. Or it's not bad. I need the senator brought generator, and we're using the generator. Your children go to school and 5 days a week or 3 days a week, the teacher ain't sure. He said, well, not bad. I need the teacher came on Monday. So that habit of very low expectation is what getting them to say, well, we got a qualified report. Well, an accountant should not even be proud of a qualified report. He should be seeking unqualified report on every circumstance, especially where you criticize the previous regime of not doing anything. They don't know anything better, and they were running the country down. Then you come now, instead of getting a complete pass, you are saying, well, I made 70. Well, you should clap for me, or I made 69, and the teacher pushed me up to 70.
Let play the final minutes of let hear from Omar.
Yeah.
Surface stuff. NSCC, please investigate this for this country. Please investigate this for this country.
What?
You finish?
No, I don't know.
Okay, but then before you come in, let me just say something. Let me just read a section from the Ministry of Finance Act.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Right? Now, I'm reading from the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning Act. It says, authority and responsibility specifically granted the minister under the act may be delegated to deputies or key officials of the ministry. Any responsible delegated under this subchapter does not, however, divest the minister of responsibility under this act. So when things go wrong at the Ministry of Finance, the minister has nowhere else to lay complaint. He must take full responsibility for that.
Is he laying complaints anywhere else?
Well, I heard him saying that some of the ministry or agency didn't file their reports, stuff like that. And when we come to the other part of the road, there are things that are far more dangerous to the country than just the 2.8 million they are discussing.
Let's see
what's happening with your.
They say you have that problem in the extent of 4.27 million. Let me give you another area of distinction. The payment, the total stuff, they say quote unquote over legislative approval, right? 2.8. Do you know what it was 2023? 96 million. I repeat, 96 million in 2023. They said 2.8.
Yeah, explain to, the other people, like that's what you were saying, the other people who were worse than my own.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, you're saying, boy, this guy was so bad off. They were a mess. Yeah, it's true. They were a mess. But you are the financial juniors, right? He is the economist from an African Development Bank, former finance minister, former budget, whatever. He was supposed to score 99% or at least 90%. But when you get a qualified report, I repeat.
He said that's an improvement.
No, it is an improvement. There's no question about it. But for his profile, that is not what he should be telling us, because he is supposed to get an unqualified report. He is not supposed to get, and there are far more worse things in the report, which I hope we can come to for me to point out than just the 2.8.
Right. And before we point that out, he was talking about archive error. This document issue, because in other words, these things were there. Maybe they lost somewhere. State Mako who worked with him, I heard him say, this is not true. Even the things that I signed as far back as 2014, we still got them. So this is not true. We are arranging for Say to come and explain that. But the whole idea of this is just a document issue. And he also said it is the intent. This means something just lost. It doesn't mean that this is fraud. But as he said, we can't know until we see it.
So he cannot claim that it is not fraud. And another person can say it is definitely fraud. But if you put it together with a general pattern of behavior across the government, it's not hard to say, that something went wrong. Definitely. Okay. The other thing I want to mention, which is not taking a lot of attention, but is far more dangerous for the country. These people, and when I say these people, I mean the Unity Party people, Rescue Mission. They told us that CDC was very bad, and I'm not a supporter of CDC. I think George Weah was a complete disaster. He was probably the worst thing ever to happen to Liberia. So I think he's a complete disaster. So I'm not a supporter of him. But they said Weah was bad, and Weah economy was bad. How come now the rescue mission is coming and put that thing back on the screen?
Mhm.
Revenue is dropping. Dennis, you see it?
Taxes on income and profit for fiscal year 2024 yielded an actual of 256.1 million when measured against final budget of 284.5 million, translate a decrease in performance of
28 million. But
million.
that means taxes on incomes and profit decreased by 28 million. Even the next paragraph, corporate income taxes, which is another category,
Right.
decreased by 11 million. So what is happening is an indication that we are heading to future problems, not just that we have past problems. We are heading to future problems because if you are doing well, and which the United Party tell us they are doing well, revenue is supposed to be increasing, correct?
And they always tell us they have they surpass their you know what their projection, right?
But what are you reading now?
So I said, but where can you take this thing from?
So now, here is why it's even worse, right?
Yeah.
Revenue is decreasing. So as a finance person, you are supposed to go into austerity mode. And you're now supposed to cut back on expenditure so that you don't end up in negative category. But revenue is decreasing at the same time, extra budgetary expenditure is occurring. You see the problem? You are expecting revenue of $100. You made $70, but at the same time, things that you didn't budget for more than $100, you are spending on it. It's a far bigger problem. It's an indication that the country is headed for far more economic problems than what they want to make in the North War, archive issue, lack of papers and all of that. This is far worse because this means that essential services may not even be provided.
How when you say even with the drop in revenue, expenditure is going up. Where are you saying that?
Oh yeah, it's one of the documents I probably sent to you. I just had a caption of it where okay, so I forgot the page, but it shows variances in expenditure figure consolidated fund. So they took a few, like the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, right?
I got it on the screen.
Okay, good. If you look at it, you will see that they went above budget by 2.8 million. Ministry of Defense, they went above budget by 2 million. Ministry of Health, okay, not Ministry of Health. Ministry of Health is oh yeah, they went above budget by 11 million. This is significant, Dennis, because if just think of you doing business, right? Your income in your business is dropping. Should your expenses be exceeding your budget?
And where is that money coming from then?
Of course, they are borrowing.
Okay.
If you find out, that means chances are they are taking debts, or they are consuming services and not paying. Yeah. So most likely, so the country is going to get into a debt spiral, because of those kinds of things. Chances are that's what's happening. Because sometimes some services will be provided ahead of the payment.
Right. Because
so when you
system.
Fine. So when you incur the expenses and then the revenue doesn't come, then what next? So you see the problem. So but if the finance ministry had a policy, I don't know the threshold.
Something got to push you to do this.
But the income dropping. What else pushing you to do it? The income is dropping. That's one.
That's what I mean. So I'm in my house. I budgeted $100 for leisure. You know, and now I was expecting to pay $2,000. I get $1,000, but now I'm spending $200. So
more than what you budgeted.
Yeah. So what, even though the thing I was expecting to get, I didn't get it. What
Yeah.
would push somebody to do that? Hard times
These
or what?
people take the Liberian people for granted because the social services that are supposed to be provided when the government income comes in, they're not doing that now. They are just spending recklessly. And that's the reason why you see more people crying. Dennis, you in the US, how often do people call you and beg for money? I mean, it's almost like every day.
The school opening now. Oh,
It's all over. Everybody's begging, you know. But these are some of the reasons. They take the people for granted. These are how can you be experiencing a shortfall in your budget, in your revenue stream, but at the same time your expenditure is shooting well above budget, not in one or two ministries, but in multiple. This was just up to 6. If you look at the actual report, I think there's up to 15 or 20 agencies where the government expenditure exceeded the approved budget. And the GSC is saying, but where is the approval? These people should seek approval to go above the budget.
Yeah.
If you realize when the rockers at the Capitol, they accused Fanatic Kofa of going $4 or $5 million above his budget, right?
Right.
That's one of the things they said. Even though they have not investigated, they say they removed Kofa. If they were very serious, they were investigated. They have not. But they claim. So if you are running a tight monetary policy, or not monetary, but fiscal policy, if you are running a tight fiscal policy, you cannot be having multiple agencies running ahead of their budget. You got to make the approval system so tight that it will not just be possible for people to go above the budget. The budget line is supposed to shut down automatically once they hit the ceiling. So, Gafon was the financial genius. You got to ask him what happened. He was the financial white knight that came in to rescue the country economy.
Mr. Gafon, if you are listening, we are extending you an invitation to come and focus on like we want to ask you, so that we can explain these things and answer some of the questions. And FOL, we have all the financial guys here, so we all speak the language. So please feel free. We're going to extend you an invitation. We'll reach out and want you to please join us. What else in this budget that because it's I don't know how many people know this, right? Because all we've been hearing is we're doing better. We're doing well. Things are moving on. I mean, people tell me, they say, oh, Dennis, even though things are not the way we want them to be, but this is by far better.
Yes, by far better for the people who have a top government job. That is true. But if you don't have a top government job, if you are the policeman on the street, if you are that nurse in a health center way in Kakata or Bapolu or whatever, some of these far hinterland places, you are not doing so well. Okay, so it's a problem. So a lot of the people say, oh yeah, we do well. Those are the Muhammad Ali's, right? Those are the people that are doing well. The average citizen, they are struggling. But Dennis, tell me, how can you claim you're doing well when your revenue is dropping?
But they always tell us the opposite, right? Tua used to say we have surplus, even though you're not paying. So it's the kind of same thing that we get. All we hear, especially if you don't have the financial eyes and ears, they tell you we're doing better. We are exceeding our projection. LRA is collecting more than we projected. So everything is fine. We saw in President Boakai's meeting with the cabinet, I mean, he was raving about those kind of things.
Yeah, sometimes it's possible because there are 4 quarters in a year, right? And the government report comes out in quarter. So it's possible you start a year from January to March and the report comes out and you are way ahead of maybe schedule in terms of your revenue collection. So when you make a statement in May, you get it right to say, you are doing well, you are ahead of budget. But you need to correct that statement by the time you get to July, because by then second quarter will come in, so you got to accumulate first and second quarter and tell the people where you are. But by the time we get to second quarter and they start getting in red, they no longer start to advertise and what's happening. Okay, but you can see definitely that Liberia faces a far bigger problem because we should be This government is, mind you, is the sophisticated government, because George Weah was dancing booga and singing at what they play name or Jamaica Lodge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they said, yeah, so he was doing nothing. So how is it that Weah was collecting more revenue than you? Either the stealing is too much, or I would want to think they have not crafted a proper economic policy for investment and job creation. So if you have not done it, and they're not making it any better, because the president trying to dictate the price of rice, dictate the price of flour, dictate the price of egg, want to restrict, the petroleum sector. Those are things that are not, look, Dennis, I don't care what school of economy you come from now. Everybody know that these kinds of government intervention in the economy is bad, right? The Soviet Union had abandoned that kind of approach. China, even China, that was one of the forerunner of they have abandoned it, right? The only place in the world now where government is controlling the price of rice and the price of flour are in Cuba. That's the only place in the world where the government is dictating the price of eggs. So I don't know what kind of economic policies that they are running with, that they are now deciding that the rice that is farmed in India and shipped from India to Liberia, that somehow they can dictate the price of it. I mean, it's illogical. Even flour. Do we farm wheat in Liberia?
No.
No, we don't farm wheat. But you say you will dictate the price of wheat that is farmed in maybe Ukraine or in Canada or in the USA, shipped to Liberia. You say you want to control the price. It's illogical. Okay, we could do something like eggs in Liberia, for example, but obviously it won't come out overnight. You have to put money into that sector to make sure that there are, assistance to those who are doing poultry so that they produce more eggs. Then probably you want to raise the import taxes on imported eggs so that it becomes more expensive to the local eggs. That's how you do. That's how you control the prices indirectly. Look, if it were easy for president to just come and say, he read a letter or a decree and say from today, the rice price must be like this, or from today, the flour price must be then there won't be any poor country. Every country will be having, because the president will just write, from today, the price is supposed to be like this, and everybody will follow. That's the economic policy that Bwaka is now using with a 40-year experience. Writing on a piece of paper, starting from Monday morning, this is the price of rice. If it were that easy, every country will going to have rice.
And we've seen this over and over. But let's go to the last issue that I want us to talk about here. People are talking about the Liberian dollar. So in the midst of this price control, there's a call that people think that the Liberian dollar is appreciating. Some say the dollar is now in the market and all that. So let's talk about this whole Liberian dollar issue.
Okay.
How is it?
I really don't know for certain what sparked the appreciation. Generally, when your currency is appreciating, it can be good news, it can be bad news. Okay, so I'm doing the general before I come to the specific.
Yeah, let me hear the good news.
Okay, good. So when your currency is appreciating and you are bringing things from out of the country, those things will get cheaper. Right? Think of it. It will get cheaper because you need less local currency to get the things that you want. Let's just say the rate was 200 to 1 and it dropped to 100, where you needed $200 to buy $1 item. But now you don't need $200 anymore. You just need $100 to buy $1 item. You get the point. On the other hand, if you were a producing country and you were shipping things out of the country, that bad news for you. Because just what is happening in your country, the opposite is happening in the next person country. If you are producing things, your things will now get more expensive when you shipping. So countries, China that is producing, China try to suppress the currency all the time. Why are they suppressing the currency? Because they want to export, and they don't want the goods to be expensive when you go abroad. So a lot of times they get into war with the America, accusing them of suppressing the currency and not allowing the currency to freely float and stuff like that. So that's the general look when it comes to currency. With Liberia, I'm one of the proponents that said the dual currency issue is a problem. Now, let me tell you why it's a problem. Let's say the price of rice doesn't change, but the rate changes and the rate depreciates. Rice is going to get expensive, even though the price has not changed, but it will get more expensive because your currency has depreciated. So the rice price is going to change either from change in the original price or just by change in the currency situation. And the currency situation can change for one reason. You don't have one reason why the currency can depreciate or appreciate. It could be one reason. So you create a lot of instability with this dual currency policy. That's the first problem. The second problem is the central bank has not done a great job making the Liberian people to utilize the banking sector. So what happened is a significant portion of the currency in the country is outside of the banking sector. The last time I checked, it was at least 50% of the currency in circulation outside the banking sector.
What?
Yes, 50%. That means all the currency central bank brought in the country in order to carry on the economy, somehow they are allowing half of that currency to be in the hands of the general public. And I would assume the people who wholesaling rice, cement, those kinds of goods, right? They probably got a private vault. So when you have a lot of people of that nature having private vault and they're not using the banking sector, it's a problem. Because now, if you want to control the rate, or you want to control the prices of commodity or whatever you're trying to do, you have very little leverage because you only have half of your currency available to you. The other half is in private hands, and sometimes they have no incentive to bring it out. So what is happening in Liberia, you don't know for now whether the major importers have seen risky moves by the government and have decided to hold on to their currency. And as a result of that, there is a shortage. And so the currency is appreciating, not from economic fundamentals, there's more production, but just because they are not putting out their money. And generally, take yourself business, or Dennis, right? If you are in business and there is a new rule every now and then, things are just changing. Every day, new policy. Or the Vice President Price Committee just issue a new regulation. Or LPRC just issue a new regulation. Will you just put money out there?
No.
No. You will want to hold on to the money and say, man, the way I see the people behaving, every day that new policy, the Vice President Price Committee coming up, one day that flour, the next day that rice, the next day that sugar, LPRC coming up, all today that we change the rules. Yesterday, the rules you were running with for the past 10 years, we change the rules. As a business person, your chances are you might hold on to your money for some time, trying to observe the regulatory environment. So it is not in this government interest to go to bed every morning and wake up and write new rules for how the economy should work. So they got this, they have detected the prices for rice, for flour, for egg. And the problem with this kind of regulation is you have to police it, right?
You're right.
Yeah, obviously you have to put police in the street to be looking around for who. And most countries don't want to do that. That's why they don't bother to try to control some of these kinds of prices, because they don't want to put police in the street looking for who is selling rice above the.
And people know these things don't last, right? So they're going to be hoarding.
They're going to hold it
until the police can go back.
So when people look, Joseph Boakai got no idea what to do with the economy. Just the fact that
But it shouldn't be Joseph Boakai, right? That's why he had advisors like the finance minister.
No,
like the
it will
central
start
bank
from
governor.
him because he was built as the wise man.
Yeah,
So we gotta
so
start from him.
he put people in in places.
So what is
Like,
his role? If you put people there and the people not doing well, what is his job?
I mean, first of all, the people you put there that aren't doing well, let's hold them accountable.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, my thinking is, right? My thinking is he set up this price committee, for example.
Yeah.
Okay. It was not the other way around.
Of the commerce minister, the finance minister, or the economic or the
okay, but he, I assume, was in government from 1952. So from 1952, it must have been that the Liberian government tried setting prices from that time, from the 50s to the 60s, it didn't work, to the 70s, it didn't work, to the 80s, it didn't work, to the 90s, it didn't work. Up to that time, why now? It suddenly didn't work from 1952 all the way to 2022. Why do you believe that it's going to work in 2025? It doesn't make sense to me. But if you ask the Moalis, and the people who are benefiting from the government, the show I like to watch, how they call that show? The show Moali can be on.
Class Reloaded.
They'll be like, yeah, my man, the government is doing well. Oh, yeah. Oh, everybody. Oh, yeah, the government is doing so well. And everybody, no, not so well. Very, very well. Oh, if I were you, I would say excellent well. And, that show is so boring. I don't know how people can listen to that kind of show. Where everybody just there, yeah, the government is doing so very well. The government is doing so very well. I will not say the government is doing so very well. You got a fat job, you're taking pay, you're managing a multi-million-dollar budget. So obviously the government is doing so very well. But now people going on the street, they can't even get a Liberian dollar to pay. Obviously, people who are into what we call, I used to be in the banking sector, right? They call those business cash-intensive businesses. Those are the people that can affect the rate at any time when several of them get together and decide, maybe they don't decide together, but they decide to take a certain approach like a wait and see. Forget it, because you got 50% of your currency outside of the banking sector. Now, what is the policy that the central bank has introduced to make sure that people don't keep that money in their homes, they bring it to the bank? What policy have they introduced for that? Do you know?
No, one that I know of.
No. So you don't have the currency in your possession, but you say you issue economic policy, and you understand me, to do the rate. I mean, you can't be joking. You understand? Even if you look at the concentration of the Liberian dollar in the economy, it is just 25% of the Liberian economy. So the 75% is US dollars. Okay? How much control do you have over US dollars?
You don't.
So these people will be fooling you. They take that $15,000 salary, they go to bed and sleep. In the morning, they write some kind of funny paper and tell you, oh, we issue new monetary policy. Monetary policy what? Liberian dollar constitutes 25% of the Liberian economy. So what kind of monetary policy for 25%?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, this is Between the Headlines. We are discussing the new petroleum pricing structure, the GAC audit report, and the perceived appreciation of the Liberian dollar. My guest here is Attorney Konyene Freeman, who is an attorney, an economist, and also a financial crime expert or specialist. If you want to be part of the conversation, please call the number that's on the screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. We take a short break. When we come back, we'll be listening to your calls. All right, that's our little entertainment while we wait for our callers. And we have a call, but what is the solution? I know we've talked. Let's start with this whole appreciation. What can the government do?
Okay. The first thing, if I were them, they have to introduce a policy to get the currency back into the banking system, because that is how you have much more effective control over the economy. The second thing is they have to address this dual currency issue. They have to have a roadmap and to continue to push, either go to a single currency regime or push for majority use of the Liberian dollars. Because if they don't do it, the rate can change for 100 different reasons, not just the change in the prices. So it is difficult to control prices when you under dual currency situation. Like, for example, Dennis, if you go to buy maybe a good that costs $10 right? And the rate is 200 to 1. So for $10, you need 2,000. If the price doesn't change and the Liberian dollar to the US dollar rate doesn't change, it will always be 2,000, right? But if the rate is changing all the time, especially going depreciating, maybe the next time you go is 2005, maybe the next time you go is 3,000. So they must control it. I would believe going to a single currency regime is better, but limiting what people can request for in US dollars. For example, in a restaurant, what is the basis for asking for US dollar for food that people cook in Liberia?
I know.
What is the basis? Because a foreign currency is needed for international trade.
Right.
Okay, so even if you don't want to move to a total single currency regime, but at a minimum, limit what kinds of goods people can use. For example, you can insist that nobody would buy, for example, maybe a good of a certain value in US dollar, whatever. You could introduce something like that, right? So that way, things like school fees, then people are not all around looking for US, because mind you, there are schools in Liberia that charge US dollar.
Yeah.
And they say they're not taking Liberian dollar, they want US dollar. So now for you to get a US dollar, you have to go on the market and try to buy it. So when so many people continuously going to buy US dollar for goat meat soup, for rent, for I don't know, hospital bill,
Right.
for all kinds of things that you're not needing international trade, is a problem. So you create an artificial demand for the currency. So why is it we can't use our own currency? Do that.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I want to see is that what we call supply side constraints. People are producing rice in Liberia, right? What kind of issues are they facing? How can you address some of those issues so that they are either able to produce more or they have more capacity? So you address the capacity of the supplier. Okay, but if the government is committing 1% of the national budget to agriculture, what time will we address the supply side constraints?
Thank you.
That's one. Then there are, you can approach it also from the demand side, right? Let me tell you a policy that can attract a private sector investment. Say the government, just a minute. Say the government has government hospitals, right? What if the government were to say, all the government hospitals, they can only buy Liberian rice and serve it in the hospitals?
Right.
Or all government schools,
Or
you can only buy,
I say or prisons.
all government prisons, when you adopt a policy like that, the first thing is that farming in Liberia becomes profitable. So Liberian people start taking money from other areas that they have money. Like some people go in China, they say, oh, but I'm not going to China again because rice is making money. So I'm going to put my money in rice business, right? Or farming. So people start diverting resources from other areas and going into the rice production because rice production is now more profitable. And as the people get more profitable, they try to expand their production.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can address it from the demand side. You can also address it from the supply side. But that's not what the government is doing. The government put a committee together headed by Yellow Machine Kun, and he said he met all the sellers and they had a negotiation and they had an agreement. And after that, they wrote a paper and said, okay, from today's date, this is now the new rice price. And if we catch anybody selling it above that price, we'll deal with you. Okay, good luck.
All right, we lost a caller. And no, that's very true. When we went to Ivory Coast, Ghana, and all, especially Ivory Coast, they use their local currency. So we wanted to add a big boy in Ghana. You get to the border, they charge you, pay this, and we take up $5. Say go change it and give it to me, right? So at least that can lower the demand for US dollar.
For the currency.
Demand and supply. More people want US dollar, the price will go up.
The price will go up. It's common sense. So how is it, Dennis, that we refuse to apply the common sense on the national level? It's ordinary common sense. Because the things that people are asking for US dollar for, school fees. Why do you need US dollar to pay school fees? You're paying the teachers. The teacher live in Liberia. The teacher is going to go to a Liberian market to buy. Why do they need US dollar? No. If a man is bringing goods from Turkey, that person needs US dollar. But why should I go in a restaurant and I ask somebody to give me cassava leaf and then they tell me $10 US for the cassava leaf? And even if I won't pay Liberian, they say, oh, we're not taking Liberian dollars. I only want US dollars. You see, so we create our own problems. Now, Bwaka, we have 50 years. Huh?
I said, every time you say that, I just ask why. I mean, why would we look at something that isn't this obvious?
It's logical. It's logical.
So
and when you try to go against logic, that's how you suffer. Because when something is common sense and is logical and you decide to go against it, then you are going to suffer. It's very logical. And the things, there are just too many things that you don't need US dollar for that they charge in US dollar in Liberia. So you got everybody going looking for US dollar. What do you think will happen with the local currency?
This is interesting. And who's supposed to be doing this? Is it the CBL? Is it Finance Ministry? Is it Commerce? Or is it the Economic Management Team? Who role is that?
Well, I guess you can start with the economic team, maybe start with the economic advisor, the finance minister, the governor. But some of these people are not convinced of this. Some people think that Liberia cannot live without the US dollars. There's no need to restrict the US dollars. But my common sense tells me if you make the US dollar overvaluable, then at no point the Liberian dollar is going to ever gain value. But beyond that, Dennis, beyond just the currency exchange, if you look at the central bank annual report, right, our manufacturing capacity is very low. Okay, so we are around 7%.
Hold that thought. There's the caller there on the line for a while now. So hold that thought. Let me bring in your first caller. Evan Morris, go ahead. You're live.
All right. Thank you, Mr. John, and hello to Attorney Freeman. I mean, I get his point. I think it's logical for the people living in Liberia to have a single currency, But what about the people in the diaspora, who many people depend on in Liberia? What does that do for them in terms of how well they can help their family sending money back home? So if I send somebody $100, they gotta change it right in the bank, right? Take their liberty and then leave the $100 in the bank and go to Liberia. And you know,
And what's wrong with that?
No, because the thing about it is we have to change our entire money system, the way we have denomination of money, right? Because to buy something big, let's say something is 1,000, US dollars. You need, I don't know how many 100,000, Liberian dollars. To take all that money to the bank or to go do commerce with it in the denomination of money that we have. So
put it on your mobile money.
Yeah, maybe
create an incentive for people to use credit card, debit card, and all those things.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, see, in order to do that, they have to revamp it because
mobile money is already in use. They buy using mobile money everywhere.
That's why they pay the central bank governor $15,000 to come out with policy, smart policy to make people to put the money on a card.
Yeah, I mean, Nigeria has been trying to do this whole electronic, money and all kinds of different things. But again, we're not even to that level yet. But my point here with Gafon, I think we are being a bit unfair to him. I don't support this government, but I think he's been there for maybe a year or maybe a little less than that. And I think there are other extenuating circumstances that's affecting our economy, certain things that's outside of the control of the country, external things happening in the U.S., the aid that was taken out of the country.
Before you continue, let's be specific. They said $2.8 million, no document for it. What would be the extenuating circumstances for that?
I mean, yeah, in that audit, that's one thing, but we're talking about the broader issues, right?
I mean, that's the new issue, right? Accountability. Tell us if you took the money or if you don't do it. Tell all the truth, right?
But that's not their job, right? That's why you have these forensic accountants to do the forensic auditing to find out where the money
we don't need that if you can report. Why are you telling us that there is no record?
I don't know. Let me interject. Elvis.
That's why you have these agencies that's going to keep them honest by you going there and finding out what they did wrong and and where the money went. Because
Elvis, can I interject?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's say there are 4 quarters in a year, right? And Gafon comes in and he gives somebody money for the first quarter. And that person is able to make a report for first quarter. And the person does not make the report. What is the basis for giving that person second quarter money?
I mean, you're asking me the question. I'm not on his side. I'm just telling you that if there's.
But I want you to just think about it.
No, I hear you. I'm not giving him any leeway. I'm just saying that now the agencies are supposed to tell us where the money is, because that's what forensic auditing is. You want to strip every transaction and see where every money went, and if you can't account for it, then this person have to hold you responsible. So now that they give the report to the government, what is the legislature going to do about it to hold them accountable? So that's the whole thing. So for me, I think Gafon as a whole, I have some faith in him. I think he's a brilliant financial mind. I think with more time, he'll probably do better. But I don't think we're being fair to him to give him all the slack that we give, all the hard time we're giving him now with just less than a year or maybe a little over a year in office with all the other things that we have going on outside of our country that's affecting our economy. So maybe another year or so, maybe he would pick things up. I just want to make those comments, but I agree with the single policy, but I think then our purchasing power on this side to help our family maybe will kind of diminish.
I don't know how.
I don't know how it works because
that's what we did when I was in Ghana. When they send you money, you go to the bank, you get cedis, and we went in the market and bought stuff with cedis. Using the exchange rate. There may be $1 or $2 here and there if you are buying or if you are selling the U.S. currency, but it really doesn't make a difference, much difference.
Yeah, then maybe they need to look into it. I don't think they're considering it for whatever reason. Maybe they think.
And you know where they started from? When Charles Taylor was coming, when they came, they used to call the Liberian dollar Edo leaves, because before the so-called normal days, when it was 1-to-1, sometimes 2-to-1, nobody. I don't know if I ever even used U.S. dollar. It was not a problem because we're using our local currency everywhere. When Taylor came and said, "Oh, we're going to change the Edo leaves for U.S. dollar," and since then, and then during the NGO year, there was U.S. dollar. The people were having U.S. dollar, and so this U.S. dollar business and it became morale for Liberians. if you went somewhere and you are US dollar plus the local currency, you are the US dollar, you are, and we just took on to that.
And it's used for international trade. It is not to give to your girlfriend.
Okay, all right. Let me
But I mean, technically, that's what we're doing with it in Liberia. That's why it's needed. If you want something from China or South Africa, then you use your US dollar, right?
Yeah.
But in Liberia, that's not what we use it for. If you want to impress your girlfriend, then instead of giving her Liberian dollar, you give her $50 US or $100 US, and say stuff like that. I mean, why are we suffering ourselves like that?
I know. I said it's all for morale, nothing else.
Because firstly, you don't need to put money in the bank. You can write a check, right?
Yeah.
So you don't need to travel. And if the government makes a law to say certain purchases must be in check, then obviously people are not going to put a huge amount of money. If government gives some incentives for you to pay by card, like for example, you could drop the tax rate on people who pay by debit card, or by credit card, whatever. Yeah. If you deduct the tax, let's say somebody's supposed to pay maybe $115 in tax. If you make it $110 for people who pay by debit card, you create incentive for people to want to use the cards. I mean, what's the problem? But we are giving ourselves headache. Why should I pay rent in US dollars? Why? The first thing it does, the landlord, it creates no incentive for the landlord to invest in Liberia. Because if a landlord is in the US, right, and his house is in Liberia, if I pay in US dollar, he's most likely to bring that money to the US and spend it. If I were to pay in Liberian dollar, he knows he's not going to bring that money to the US and spend it. Yeah. So he has to build other houses in Liberia, to spend it, or he has to come to Liberia and enjoy it. Or he has to go through the process before he gets US dollar to spend it. You know what I mean? So we are creating headache for ourselves. It's undermining our own development. And you will expect that the people who call themselves traditional people or indigenous, because Baka was in 2017, he was advertising the indigenous ticket. I remember very well when he got a Nukwe on a ticket, they built a ticket as the indigenous ticket. So if you are indigenous, what is wrong with an indigenous making the Liberian dollar the unique currency for us to use? Why is an indigenous so happy to use US dollar?
Just to break the morale. Yeah, but
you'd be like George, we are using airplane to bring morale.
Yeah, you're breaking morale.
I don't know how you can add to presidential morale because president already got morale.
But when the people president, like for WIA, he was president, he still want to be called Ambassador WIA.
Yeah. So here's the thing, Dennis. So when it comes to the agriculture, right? Some of these policies, like, is in the perfect control of the government. For example, insisting that, like we said, prisons or
the military,
schools, government functions and workshops. That one you can issue a presidential decree starting from today's date. Or any rights served in any government functionary must be Liberian rights.
I know.
What happens? Everybody go looking for Liberian rights. Suddenly, rice farming become profitable in Liberia. Then the rice farmers start looking for additional capital to expand their investment. It's within his control. Why is he not doing it? He's not doing that, but he got Yellow Machine Kun to come and write a paper and say, starting from tomorrow, rice must be. How can you say rice must be that is farmed in India? Well, I mean, what sense that one make?
Let's wrap it up.
Okay.
It's interesting how, I'm even thinking all the different uniform, right? Let's say besides the police or things that we use, let's say suit, things that are shown by our local people.
Yeah. Furniture in the government offices.
Yeah.
You can write a government policy and say only local furniture must be purchased.
You are the one feeding the military. All the food, local, including planting, edibles and everything.
And that is within your power, right?
Yeah.
It's within your power.
I was in this little town called Bamakama in Guinea, and on their market day, the oil, so the truck will come and park there, and individuals will collect oil. People go on make oil just from houses.
Yeah.
You know how many barrels of oil they can take to Conakry? Just individuals in their home. So even if you incentivize local farmers, just the little garden we make, you have to collect edibles and cassava and rice and potatoes. Just imagine if we pull all those together.
It would be a lot.
Yeah,
And what happened? You will attract investment in the sector.
Yeah.
So other people who don't have sufficient money, but because profit is in the sector, they will go borrow money in order to expand their capacity and produce more. And that is something that is within their control. But they leave what is in their control. Flour that is not in their control, that is produced in Ukraine and Canada, they write a paper and say, from today's day, flour must be sold at so and so price. And Liberian people, when you talk, they say, oh, you against this person. We're not against anybody. We just are informed on certain things, and we have to be objective. Okay? That thing is a worthless piece of paper. Only in Cuba that is done now. Only in Cuba. There are, how many countries are there in the world? I think 150 or more, right? They're only in Cuba, the government write the price for things and say, okay, this is the price for the EU. I mean, you can control education prices, hospitals, stuff like that, some essential medicine. But as a general principle, you cannot sit in your office and just write on a piece of paper and say, starting for tomorrow, this is the price. It doesn't work that way.
You see, there are 195 countries in the world.
Fine. Only Cuba now, the government sets prices like that. Only Cuba. China or Russia, those were countries that used to set prices before. Ask them why they left. Why they stopped setting prices. Ask. Why China stop setting prices? But the one that other people stop doing because it's not productive, then you get Bwaka, who's supposed to be 50 years experience. He is not doing something that other people have abandoned because it doesn't work.
Yeah. All right. Let me see if we have any callers else. You can give your closing comment. Yeah. Let's go ahead with the closing.
Okay, but you don't have any more last comments? Question?
No question or comment.
Okay, so let me take it step by step. Regarding the GAC audit, I don't have any problem with GAFWAN. I don't think this thing is about GAFWAN, but I think it's about the Unity Party government. They criticize the previous government as being, in fact, I remember Bwaka saying that they took a man's job and gave it to a boy. Do you remember that statement?
Yeah.
Okay. So now they have taken a man's job and given it to a man. But we're still having the same problem that we had when we gave it to a boy. If finance ministry gave ministry A $100 for first quarter, that ministry is supposed to make a first quarter report. That first quarter report is supposed to be the basis for the second quarter payment. So the finance ministry have no excuse to go from first quarter, second, third, fourth, and end the year without a report. And then when the GSC comes, they say, oh, well, it's just an archive issue. It's just some missing paper. But $2.8 million, that's a lot of money. Then you say, okay, yeah. But mind you, the people before us were even worse than us. That's the excuse. Okay. But we should be doing much better. So I think they don't have an excuse. I think under the public financial management law, the Ministry of Finance is absolutely responsible for this report, and they cannot shift the blame to other people. I also want to note the far more serious thing in that report, which people are not talking about, what is the declining revenue intake. It is far more a problem because that means the government cannot expand their capacity. The government cannot do more of the good things for the country. So that is far more problem. So they need to go back and find out why our revenue declining and how to solve that problem. But one of the things I see that they're not going to solve it is this price committee that they are putting up and detecting prices and unilaterally changing prices. It scares away investors. You have to have a policy that is reliable and predictable. I mean, put yourself in the shoe of the investor. You are sitting out somewhere in Tbilisi and you want to come to Liberia to invest $5 million in the energy sector. And then you read that once some money, LPR thinking and change the price structure overnight. Yes. And you sitting with your $1 million and you thinking, and then when you read, they say, but not only gas, I think the president decreed that rest should be this one. The president decreed that flour, that is enough to kill off people wanting to come to the country to invest. So when you do that and you take 50-man delegation, you go to China, you go to Japan, and Malaysia, Indonesia, everywhere, it's a waste of money because people are not going to come because what they're doing is scaring away investors. So it is not a Musa Belete thing. It is not anybody thing. You must have predictability on your economic rules, on your laws. It must be predictable for the foreseeable future for somebody to be convinced to come and invest in your country. What they are doing is wrong. Out of the 195 countries in the world today, only Cuba is still setting prices. Everybody else try to go around it. You know what I mean? Like address the supply side constraints, right? Address demand side issues. They go around it. Even China that used to set prices before no longer set prices. Russia, Eastern Europe, all those countries have abandoned that system more than 50 years ago, more than 35 years ago. Why is Mr. Bwaka adopting that approach to the Liberian economy? Is he want to kill off the economy altogether or what? Because we barely have an economy. The last thing I want to mention, Liberian people, don't suffer yourself for nothing. US dollar is for international trade. US dollar is not there for you to give it to your girlfriend to impress her. It is not there to pay children's school fees. It is not there to pay for cassava leaf soup. It is not there for you to pay for gourmet soup. It is there so that when you want to bring goods from Turkey or from Greece or from the USA, the money will be in the bank and your bank will wire it to the other bank. That's the use of US dollar. By allowing us to use US dollar on that kind of low level, you put everybody on the hunt for US dollar. And if you put everybody on the hunt for US dollar, it's obvious the price for US dollar is going to go up. So it's a problem with the currency thing. Okay. And I think, okay, one more last thing is this central bank thing. The central banks has to, because they are trying to intervene in the economy through the monetary policy, but they have to make sure that they have control over the economy. But things like the dual currency policy is preventing it. Things like the currency, 50% of it being outside of the banking system, those things are creating, are undermining the central bank ability to do its work. And they have to craft. Why are we giving central bank, I don't know, 20,000 or 22,000? Why? It's not for him to go to bed and sleep and wake up the next morning. It's for him to be all night thinking, what kind of smart policy can I bring so that the billions and billions of Liberian dollars that is outside there, all around other people pay in other people private vault, they can take that money and bring it in the banking sector. That's why we pay him 20,000. So you can go to bed and go sleep like how everybody else is sleeping. So that's how I have to say. It's been a nice talk. I always get excited when I'm talking about these things,
I
and I hope,
can see the excitement.
Yeah, I hope that we may have touched on some people to think differently about how they see things. I'm sure I convinced you on the currency thing today. Yeah.
No, but thank you very much. I appreciate the time. And I want to thank our viewers, even those who will watch later. Continue to follow Focus on Liberia. We do it like no other. Until then, we're going to close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good night and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home.